I thought the worst thing that could happen on my wedding day was being left at the altar, until a stranger zipped up my dress and called me by a name only my childhood ghost should have known. 17 minutes before the ceremony, I stood alone in the bridal room of St. Aurelia's Cathedral with my back to the mirror and my fingers shaking too badly to reach the final inch of my zipper. The dress was beautiful in the cruel way expensive things can be beautiful, all ivory satin, tiny pearl buttons, and lace sleeves that made me look softer than I felt. Outside the door, the organist practiced the same 4 notes again and again. Downstairs, 200 guests waited beneath white roses and candlelight, whispering about the bride, the weather, the groom. Ethan Wells was late. Not 5 minutes late. Not stuck in traffic late. Gone. His best man had stopped answering his phone. His mother had started crying quietly in the front pew. My maid of honor kept telling me not to panic, which is what people say when panic has already entered the room and taken a seat. I stared at myself in the mirror and tried to breathe. 24 years old, white dress, white flowers, white walls, white lies. My blonde hair had been pinned into a low twist at the back of my neck, leaving one small scar visible near my wrist where the lace cuff did not cover it. I never liked that scar showing. I never remembered exactly how I got it, only flashes, rain, smoke, a child's hand pulling mine, a paper bird crushed against my chest. My father used to say some memories stay buried because they are protecting us. I used to believe him. Then the door opened behind me. I froze. Lena, I called, thinking it was my maid of honor returning with safety pins or another forced smile. No answer. Just the soft click of the door closing and the faint scent of rain entering the room with someone who did not belong there. I looked up into the mirror and saw a man standing behind me. Tall, dark-haired, white skin, black suit, no boutonniere, no guest badge, no expression that belonged at a wedding. His eyes were gray, steady, and impossibly calm, the kind of calm that made the room feel less safe, because it meant he had already measured every exit. I should have screamed. I should have run. But my zipper was still open, my dress was still loose at my back, and there was something about the way he looked at me that made fear pause before it moved. "Who are you?" I whispered. He did not answer. He crossed the room slowly, stopping far enough away that I could step aside if I wanted to. "Your dress," he said. His voice was low, controlled, edged with something that did not sound American enough to be ordinary, and did not sound foreign enough to place. "May I?" The question shocked me more than his presence. May I? Not turn around. Not stay still. Not be quiet. A choice, offered in a room where everyone else had been telling me what a bride should do. I stared at him in the mirror. My groom is missing, and a stranger just walked into my dressing room. "You really think the zipper is my biggest problem?" His mouth moved slightly. Not a smile. A shadow of one. No, he looked toward the closed door, then back at me. "But you should not face what is coming undone." My fingers went cold. "What is coming?" He waited. I hated that he waited, because it made the silence feel like permission. Slowly, I turned my back to him. He stepped closer, still careful, still quiet. His fingers caught the zipper tab without touching my skin. The dress closed inch by inch, the sound impossibly loud beneath the muffled music below. When he reached the top, he fastened the hook with the precision of a man locking something that did not belong to him. Then he leaned just close enough for his voice to reach my ear and said, "Your groom is not coming, little dove." I am. The world stopped. Not because of Ethan. Not because of the wedding. Because Little Dove was a name from a burning memory, a name whispered by a boy I had forgotten but never truly lost. I did not move after he said it. I could not. Little Dove. The name slipped under my skin before fear could stop it, brushing against a place in me that had been locked since childhood. My hands tightened around the edge of the vanity. In the mirror, the stranger stood behind me, tall and still, his dark suit a clean line against the soft white chaos of the bridal room. He should have looked wrong there among the roses, satin hangers, pearl pins, and half-empty champagne flutes. Instead, the room looked like it had been waiting for him to arrive and tell the truth. "Do not call me that," I whispered. His eyes held mine in the glass. "You remember." "I remember smoke." My voice shook. Rain. A paper bird. Nothing else. Something passed across his face, too quick to name. Pain, maybe. Or guilt that had learned to stand upright. That was enough. I turned around too fast, the skirt of my dress sweeping against the vanity chair. Who are you? Before he could answer, the hallway outside erupted with voices. My maid of honor, Lena, called my name. Then my aunt. Then someone from Ethan's family, sharp and panicked. The ceremony was supposed to start in minutes, and the groom still had not arrived. The stranger glanced at the door, then reached into his jacket slowly, carefully, as if showing me he was not reaching for anything that should frighten me. He took out a phone and held it toward me. On the screen was a message thread from Ethan. Bride is dressed. Transfer begins after vows. My stomach dropped so hard I forgot the floor was under me. That is not his phone, I said, because denial is sometimes the last polite thing fear knows how to do. No, the stranger said. It is the phone he used when he did not want you to know who he was speaking to. I stared at the words until they blurred. Transfer. After vows. The wedding dress suddenly felt tighter, not around my ribs, but around my name. Transfer what? Access. To what? His silence answered too slowly. My father's estate, I said. My father, Samuel Bennett, had been dead for 3 years, but his presence still lived in locked cabinets, sealed envelopes, and the trust my aunt said was too complicated for me to manage alone. He had been a lawyer. A careful man. A man who taught me that signatures were doors and doors should never be opened for someone who rushed you. I looked at the stranger's face and saw he knew that too. You knew my father? Yes. The answer was quiet enough to be a confession. The doorknob rattled. Lena's voice came through. Grace? Are you okay? Open the door. I took one step toward it, then stopped when the stranger spoke. If you walk out as Ethan Wells's bride, they will own more than your afternoon. I turned back. And if I walk out with you? They will hunt what your father hid. The sentence should have made me choose the hallway, the guests, the familiar disaster of being embarrassed instead of the unknown disaster of believing a man like him. But then he said my father's name again, softly, correctly, like someone who had stood in a room with him and learned respect the hard way. Samuel wanted you safe before he wanted you obedient. My throat burned. You still have not told me your name. A sudden silence fell beyond the door, the kind that comes when someone important has entered a hallway. Then Lena's voice whispered, thin with fear, that is Roman Hale. The name moved through the wood before I could fully understand it. Roman Hale. Chicago's whispered warning. The man whose restaurants had back rooms no one asked about, whose charity checks arrived with no speeches, whose enemies became rumors and whose allies became untouchable. The stranger watched me recognize him. He did not apologize for it. I can leave, he said. But if I do, they will call you Mrs. Wells before sunset. Another knock. Harder this time. Ethan's mother was crying now. Someone said the photographer was waiting. Someone said the guests were standing. Roman stepped away from me and opened the side door that led to the private hallway behind the choir loft. Not escape. Not rescue. A choice. You decide, little dove, he said. The aisle or the truth. I looked at the side hallway, then at the main door shaking beneath the weight of everyone else's plans for me. My life had always been a polite room full of people explaining what was best. My aunt said Ethan was stable. Ethan said marriage would simplify the estate. His mother said I looked perfect in white. The wedding planner said I was lucky the cathedral had opened a Saturday in June. No one had asked whether my hands went cold every time Ethan mentioned my signature. No one had asked why my father's old attorney stopped returning calls the week after the engagement was announced. No one had asked why love felt so much like paperwork. Roman Hale stood beside the private hallway, silent, not reaching for me. That was the worst part. He was the only man in the building powerful enough to drag me anywhere, and the only one not trying to. I lifted my skirt with both hands and walked toward him. The knocking stopped. Maybe they heard the rustle of the dress moving away from the door. Maybe they heard the bride choosing the wrong exit. Roman stepped back to give me room, and together we entered the narrow corridor behind the choir loft. It smelled like old wood, candle wax, and dust warmed by hidden pipes. The organ music grew softer, then strange, as if the church itself had turned its face from the ceremony. "Where does this go?" I asked. "A service stairwell. Then the West Garden." "You know churches now?" "I know exits." He said it without pride. I followed him past framed photographs of bishops and holiday choirs, my satin shoes whispering against the runner rug. Every few feet, voices rose behind us. "Grace. Mrs. Bennet. Has anyone seen the bride?" Roman did not hurry, but the air around him carried urgency like a low storm. At the end of the hall, he stopped before a small table stacked with hymn books. On top was a black leather wallet, a silver watch, and a phone with a cracked corner. Ethan's phone. My breath caught. "How did you get that?" "He left it where frightened men leave evidence," Roman said. "In someone else's hands." I picked up the phone before I could decide not to. It opened without a passcode. That hurt more than it should have, because Ethan had told me privacy was the foundation of trust whenever I asked why his phone was always face down. The message thread was still there. "Bride is dressed. Transfer begins after vows." Another message sat below it, unread by him. "Make sure Bennett signs the trust amendment before midnight. No signature, no access." I read it once. Twice. The words did not become kinder. "Trust amendment?" I whispered. Roman watched my face, not the phone. "Your father changed the terms before he died. No husband can touch the estate unless you personally approve the release after marriage." I laughed once softly, because shock sometimes wears the wrong sound. So Ethan was going to marry me and hand me a pen before the cake. Before midnight. Why before midnight? Roman looked toward the stained glass window at the end of the hall. Rain traced silver lines over the face of a saint. "Because tomorrow morning, your father's final lock opens." "What lock?" He hesitated. The first real hesitation I had seen from him. It made the hallway feel smaller. "A vault." My fingers tightened around the phone. "At a bank." "Not exactly." "Roman." His name felt dangerous in my mouth, but less dangerous than being lied to again. He turned back to me. "Samuel Bennett kept records for people who trusted paper more than bullets, judges more than rumors, and truth more than survival. Some of those records involve the Wells family. Some involve mine." The air left me slowly. "Your family?" "Yes. So this is not just about saving me." He accepted that without flinching. "No, I waited for the disappointment to crush me." It did not. Not fully. Maybe because he told the truth even when it made him look worse. Maybe because Ethan had wrapped betrayal in flowers and Roman offered danger without perfume. The stairwell door opened before either of us moved. Lena stood there, pale, holding my bouquet in both hands like she had rescued the wrong part of me. Her eyes flicked from Roman to me to Ethan's phone. "Grace," she whispered, "his father is downstairs telling everyone you are unwell." My stomach turned. "Ethan's father?" She nodded quickly. "He said the vows will continue privately in the chapel office if needed." "He said it is what you wanted." The phone nearly slipped from my hand. Roman's expression did not change, but the hallway seemed to darken around him. Lena swallowed. "Tell me you did not want that." I looked down at the bouquet. White roses. Baby's breath. A ribbon embroidered with Mrs. Ethan Wells in gold thread, a surprise gift from his mother that I had pretended was sweet because I had forgotten how to be angry in front of women who smiled while trapping you. I took the bouquet from Lena, pulled the ribbon free, and let it fall onto the floor. My voice came out quiet, but it was mine. "Take me to the aisle." Roman's eyes sharpened. "Grace." "Not to marry him." I lifted Ethan's phone. "To let everyone hear why I will not." The walk back to the cathedral felt longer than any aisle I had ever imagined. Not because of the distance. It could not have been more than 40 feet from the service hallway to the side entrance near the altar. But every step sounded like a decision echoing ahead of me. My satin shoes touched stone. My dress brushed the walls. Lena followed behind me, breathing fast, still holding the bouquet without its ribbon. Roman walked a few steps back, not beside me, not in front of me, as if he understood that the only way out of a cage was not to be carried. It was to walk. When we reached the side door, the organ stopped. The sudden silence dropped over the cathedral like a curtain. Through the narrow crack, I saw rows of faces turned toward the front. White roses climbed the pews. Candles burned in tall glass sleeves. Ethan's mother sat with a handkerchief pressed to her mouth. His father, Charles Wells, stood near the chapel office door in a navy suit, speaking quietly to my aunt with the polished sadness of a man performing concern. Ethan was nowhere. Of course he was nowhere. Men like Ethan did not stand where truth could touch them. I pushed the door open before fear could ask for one more minute. The sound of it made everyone turn. 200 people looked at me at once. For a second, I almost became the girl they expected. Grace Bennett, sweet and embarrassed. Grace Bennett, apologizing for the inconvenience. Grace Bennett, laughing softly while someone else rearranged the trap into something respectable. Then I felt the weight of Ethan's phone in my palm. Small. Warm. Real. I walked to the microphone near the altar. The pastor blinked at me confused, but stepped aside when I looked at him. Maybe it was the dress. Maybe it was my face. Maybe every room has a moment when people recognize a woman is done being polite. Grace, Charles Wells called gently, starting toward me. You are overwhelmed. Let us go somewhere private. His voice was smooth enough to make concern sound like instruction. I looked at him over the rows of flowers. No, the word was not loud, but the microphone caught it and gave it wings. A ripple moved through the guests. My aunt lifted a hand to her pearls. Lena stopped near the first pew, pale and proud and terrified. Roman remained at the back, half in shadow beneath the choir balcony. Everyone saw him eventually. The whispers changed shape. Roman Hale. Is that Roman Hale? Why is he here? Charles saw him too, and for the first time, his polished sadness cracked. Only a little. But I saw it. The groom is not late, I said into the microphone. My voice shook once, then steadied. He is hiding. Ethan's mother made a small sound, but I kept going. If I stopped, they would bury me in explanations. This morning, I was told to smile. I was told every bride gets nervous. I was told not to ask questions because today was supposed to be beautiful. I lifted the phone. But my fiancé had another phone. On it, there are messages about a transfer beginning after the vows. There are messages about my father's trust. There are messages about needing my signature before midnight. The cathedral became so quiet I could hear rain ticking against the stained glass. Charles's face hardened beneath his concern. Grace, that is a private family matter. I almost laughed. It was private when you planned it without me. It became mine when you put my name on it. A murmur rose, not loud, but alive. My aunt whispered my name like a warning. I looked at her and finally understood she was not shocked by the plan. She was shocked I had learned of it before it was finished. That hurt. A clean hurt. The kind that cuts through years of excuses. I am not signing anything today, I said. I am not entering a private ceremony. I am not unwell. I am not confused. And I am not Mrs. Wells. The last sentence moved through the church like a match held to paper. Charles stepped closer. You have no idea what you are interfering with. Roman's voice came from the back before I could answer. Calm. Low. Clear. She does now. Every head turned. He did not move toward me. He did not claim me. He did not rescue the moment from my hands. He simply stood there, dangerous and still, making the truth feel protected without making it feel owned. Charles stared at him. This does not concern you, Hale. Roman's gray eyes stayed on him. Samuel Bennett concerned me. My father's name changed the air. I felt it before I understood it. The pastor looked down. My aunt went white. Charles stopped walking. Behind me, the candles trembled in their glass, though no window was open. I turned slowly toward Roman. What does my father have to do with your family? Roman looked at me then, and the distance between us filled with all the answers he had not given me. Everything, he said. Then my phone buzzed in Lena's hand. She looked at the screen and her face strained. Grace, she whispered, holding it out. The text was from Ethan. Do not trust him. He is not saving you. He is collecting what your father owed. Ethan's message sat on my screen like a second groom waiting at the altar. Do not trust him. He is not saving you. He is collecting what your father owed. For one breath, the entire cathedral disappeared. The candles, the flowers, the guests, the whispering mouths, the heavy white dress. All of it blurred around those words. My father owed. Not my father helped. Not my father protected. Owed. I looked at Roman across the church, and for the first time since he had entered the bridal room, I saw something dangerous in his silence. Not threat. Not anger. Restraint. The kind that means the truth is standing too close to pain. Is it true? I asked. The microphone carried my voice before I could decide whether I wanted everyone to hear. Roman's eyes did not leave mine. Part of it. A low sound moved through the guests. Charles Wells seized the opening like he had been waiting his entire life for a crack in someone else's courage. There it is, he said, smooth again, louder now, turning toward the pews as if the wedding had become his courtroom. Roman Hale has no business in this church except the business his family has always conducted. Miss Bennet is frightened and confused. My son may have handled a private estate matter poorly, but this man is exploiting her grief. My aunt nodded too quickly. Ethan's mother cried harder. The pastor looked like he wanted to vanish into the hymnals. I held the phone so tightly my fingers ached. Where is Ethan? I asked Charles. His mouth tightened. Safe. That was not the question. He is doing what is necessary to protect both families. Both families. The phrase landed cold. I turned to Roman. What did my father owe you? Roman walked forward then, slowly, down the center aisle between white roses and stunned faces. Every step was quiet, but the room felt it. He stopped 10 feet away from me, close enough to answer, far enough to leave the choice visible. When I was a boy, my family was being cornered by men who wanted a ledger my father kept, he said. Samuel Bennett hid us for one night. He got us out of Chicago before sunrise. The cathedral held its breath. My own breath went thin. Rain. Smoke. A child's hand. A paper bird. Roman's voice lowered. You were there. My scar began to burn beneath my lace cuff, not with pain, but memory. I was 6. Yes. And you were the boy. He nodded once. I called you Little Dove because you would not let go of a paper bird you had made in school, even when the rain ruined it. A small, impossible piece of my childhood clicked into place. The boy in the doorway. Dark hair plastered to his forehead. A jacket too big for his shoulders. His hand reaching back for mine. My father's voice telling us to run through the side gate. I touched my wrist. Why did I forget? Roman's face changed, just enough. Because your father asked you to. Charles gave a sharp laugh. Convenient. Roman did not look at him. Samuel hid more than my family that night. He hid records. Names. Accounts. Proof that certain people had used charities, trusts, and marriages to move money through innocent hands. My stomach tightened. The Wells family. Roman's silence answered first. Then he said yes. Charles stepped forward. Careful. I looked at him, and suddenly his perfect navy suit looked less like respectability and more like costume. Is that why Ethan wanted access to my trust? Charles's smile vanished. Your trust belongs under proper management. It belongs to me. You are young. I am not property. The words came out sharper than I expected, and the microphone gave them back to the entire church. Somewhere in the pews, a woman whispered, good for her. It was small. Almost nothing. But it steadied me. Roman reached into his inner pocket and removed a folded envelope, cream-colored, old, with my father's handwriting across the front. Grace, when the dove returns. My knees nearly softened. Where did you get that? Your father gave it to mine. My father gave it to me when I turned 30. He told me not to open it unless the Wells family tried to marry you into silence. The church tilted around me. You have had this for 5 years? Yes. And you waited until my wedding day? That accusation hurt him. I saw it. I did not know about Ethan until last night. But you knew about me. I knew your name. I knew what your father risked. I knew I owed you the truth if the past ever found you. He held the envelope out, but did not step closer. You can take it, or you can walk away from every person in this room, including me. That was when I understood the difference between a trap and a door. A trap rushes you. A door waits. I walked down the altar steps, my dress whispering like water over stone, and took the envelope from Roman's hand. His fingers did not close over mine. They let go the second I had it. Inside was one photograph, faded at the edges. My father stood beside a younger man with Roman's eyes. Between them were two children under a porch light, both soaked from rain. One boy, one little girl holding a ruined white paper dove. On the back, in my father's handwriting, were 7 words that made the room go silent inside me. Only grace can open the vault. The words on the back of the photograph did not feel like ink. They felt like my father's hand reaching through 3 years of silence and closing gently around mine. Only grace can open the vault. I read them once, then again, while the cathedral watched me become someone none of them had prepared for. Not a bride. Not a daughter to be managed. Not a trust to be transferred. A key. Charles Wells stepped toward me, and the spell broke. That photograph proves nothing, he said. His voice was still careful, but the warmth had drained out of it. Your father was involved with dangerous people, Grace. Whatever stories Mr. Hale is selling you, remember that. Roman did not move. I wished he would say something, but another part of me understood why he did not. If he took the fight from me now, Charles would point at him and call it manipulation. If Roman stayed silent, the truth had to stand on my voice. I looked down at the photograph again. My father looked younger there, tired but alive, one hand on the shoulder of the little girl I had been. I remembered his coat smelling like rain. I remembered his voice saying, "Keep the dove close, Gracie. Birds know the way home." My throat tightened. "Where's the vault?" I asked Roman. Charles answered first. "There is no vault." Roman's eyes stayed on me. "There is." "Where?" "Not in a bank." My pulse quickened. "You said that before." Because Samuel did not trust banks. He trusted places people forgot to look. Behind me, Lena whispered, "Grace, your aunt is texting someone." I turned. My aunt froze with her phone half hidden behind her pearl clutch. For years, Aunt Marjorie had worn grief like perfume, always soft, always present, always just enough to make me feel guilty for questioning her. She had helped choose my dress. She had pushed the Wells engagement as if it were a blessing. She had told me my father would have wanted stability. Now her thumb hovered over the screen, and her face had the tight look of someone watching a locked door begin to open. "Who are you texting?" I asked. "No one." "Then show me." Her chin lifted. "Do not speak to me like that." I almost apologized. The old Grace rose inside me on instinct, trained by dinner tables and family holidays and women who could make disobedience feel like cruelty. Then I looked at the gold ribbon on the floor near Lena's feet. Mrs. Ethan Wells. A name chosen for me before I had chosen anything. "Show me," I repeated. She looked at Charles. That was enough. The cathedral saw it too. The whispering changed again, less curious now, more awake. Roman finally spoke, not to threaten, not to command, but to place one clean fact in the room. Samuel Bennett did not leave his daughter unprotected. He left instructions with 3 people. My father was one. Marjorie Bennett was another. My aunt's face went pale beneath her makeup. My whole body went cold. "You knew." She pressed her lips together. "I knew your father had become paranoid." "You knew about the vault?" "I knew he was making enemies." "You knew Ethan wanted my signature." She did not answer. The silence was worse than yes. I felt something inside me loosen. Not break. Loosen. Like a knot finally realizing it had been tied by someone else's hands. Charles stepped in quickly. "Grace, your aunt protected you from your father's obsessions. That is all. This family has offered you respect, position, security. Security should not require a signature before midnight." His expression sharpened. "You are being influenced." "No," I said. "I am being informed." The pastor cleared his throat softly, as if remembering his own duty in the room. "Miss Bennett, would you like me to call someone for legal assistance?" It was such a small sentence. So ordinary. So decent. I almost cried. Before I could answer, Roman said, "Nora Whitfield is waiting outside." Charles turned on him. "Of course she is." I looked at Roman. "Who is Nora Whitfield?" "And a state attorney. Independent." Samuel trusted her predecessor. "You brought a lawyer to my wedding?" "I brought a witness," he said. "Whether you use her is up to you." Another door. Waiting. I nodded once. Lena moved first, fast and brave in her pale blue maid of honor dress, hurrying down the aisle before anyone could stop her. The cathedral doors opened, letting in gray daylight and the smell of wet pavement. A woman in a charcoal coat entered with a leather folder under her arm. She was in her late 50s, with silver hair, calm eyes, and the steady walk of someone who had spent her life making powerful men repeat themselves under oath. She stopped beside me and offered her hand. "Grace Bennett. I am Nora Whitfield. Your father left me a sealed instruction to be open today only if you refuse the Wells marriage." I looked at the rows of guests, at my aunt, at Charles, at Roman standing silent in black at the edge of the aisle. Then I looked back at Nora. "What happens if I open it?" She held my gaze. "Then the wedding ends, the trust freezes, and we go find what your father hid." My hands were still shaking, but this time they were not shaking from fear. They were shaking because a door had opened, and for once, no one was pulling me through it. I took the folder. "Then open it." Nora opened the folder with the calm precision of a woman who knew paper could be louder than shouting. The cathedral stayed silent around her. Even the rain seemed to soften against the stained glass.